Welcome to the Hastings Shadmehry Show with your hosts, Andee Hastings and Mali Shadmehry. Dive into the heart of family law as Andee and Mali bring clarity to legal challenges, celebrate client victories, and share the wisdom of their combined expertise. Get ready for a journey into empowerment and advocacy right here where your story matters.
Hello, and welcome to the Hastings Shadmehry Show, where we delve into the heart of family law and the stories that shape our lives. I'm Mali Shadmehry, and joining me is my partner, Andee Hastings. How are you today, Andee?
I'm great, Mali. How are you doing today, just getting here from court?
I'm doing well. I am sitting here in my suit, but I am barefooted underneath this table because as soon as I'm not in the courtroom, those stilettos are coming off. I told Andee, I don't know what I did in the gym, but recently I wore some stupid Nikes. Sorry, Nike, but you are too narrow for my foot and you suck. You are cute, though. And it was too narrow on my foot and it damaged my toes. I was trying to deadlift and I don't know what I did. So here I am barefooted doing a podcast. The court was great. Had a fun morning with one of my favorite judges and an awesome client who just needed to get some things in order and have a great opposing counsel. And honestly, it's always nice to go to the courthouse in Forsyth County and get to see the members of the bar out there and the judges, and there's a lot of camaraderie. So it was really good. I love being in the courtroom. My toes.
So, Mali, are you feeling today like a warrior or a diplomat?
All right. I have recently been toying with the notion of the fact that great warriors have to be diplomats. If you're a warrior, you are a diplomat. There's a time and a place for that warrior behavior. So I'll say, I'm diplomatic today. I'm here. Let's find resolutions. Don't coax me out of the wolf's den to fight with you. Just be reasonable. So, diplomat, what about you?
Does it really take coaxing? Anyway, we'll treat that as the rhetorical question.
Yes,
we know that it
yes, agreed.
I'm definitely feeling a warrior vibe today. I have a client that is very near and dear to my heart, and her spouse seems to think that we're not serious. And so we're in the process of showing him exactly how serious we really are. And that's all I can say about that right now. But
love that. You know, it's always a shame when you come to the table ready to be amicable, work on solutions, and the other side just wants to play games and try to capitalize on emotions of your client, thinking they still have control over the client. And little do they know, it's not the client. You're working with daddy now. We are here. We see what you're doing. You're setting yourself up to waste your money if you're going to play games like that.
It's true. It's true. I just hate that sometimes, our clients get caught in the crossfire, but this one's got to learn some lessons.
And I think an interesting dynamic in our partnership, in our relationship, is our approach in situations like that. I think that Andee and I like to always collaborate and figure out what approaches should be in cases, especially really complex and high-end cases. We really think things through before we act. I can be really trigger happy, ready, fire, aim, and I've already fired before I even know where I'm going. Andee is uber calculated, and sometimes I come in and say, hey, let's just do this, and do it with confidence, and it is a good combination.
Perfect balance.
Perfect balance, yes. So let's get going.
Okay.
Today, we are talking about what to do before a divorce. We have come up with some components that we typically see arise, at the beginning of a divorce that are just problems that arise when people don't adequately prepare themselves. That's financially, mentally, and logistically. So we're going to hit on a few different areas. So for the first one, let's talk about what do people need to be doing as far as getting their ducks in a row with finding a lawyer before a divorce. That would be component one, find a lawyer, and maybe some standard things people need to be doing to make sure that's an efficient process in and of itself.
Well, absolutely. Finding a lawyer is probably piece number one. We've had people come consult with us, and it's been years later that they've actually proceeded with a divorce. We're on your timeline, and that's true for any lawyer. You may not be ready. You may just be gathering information, figuring out how to protect yourself, planning. And the most important thing is that you find an attorney that you feel comfortable with, because these are the most important aspects of your life. And if you don't feel comfortable with that person intuitively, if you don't feel like they're hearing you, they're understanding what's most important to you and giving you tools to try to achieve your goals, then you're not with the right person. And I tell people this all the time. I want everyone to find the right person. If that's not me, that's fine, as long as they find the right attorney. And I encourage clients to interview multiple attorneys, because everyone is different. We have different styles, different approaches, different ideas, and we bring a different type of energy to a case. So it's important to investigate that and really feel like you found somebody that you're comfortable with.
Agreed. I think that, to add a couple little factoids to what Andee said.
Love the factoids.
Factoids. The interviewing of the attorney is important. When you interview an attorney, when you have a consultation with an attorney, it means you have now forever conflicted that lawyer out from ever speaking to your spouse. So I've seen people use this as a tactic, which I'm not recommending, but I've seen people do it. I actually have a preference on whether it's good or bad, really. Do what you want to do. Spend your money how you want to spend it. But if you meet with the best talent in the state and you conflict all them out from your spouse using them, that's a thing. And I've seen it done.
I have too.
I've been interviewed, so I could be conflicted out. I'm sure of it. I know that it's happened. So you want to get to the good lawyers before your spouse does. That's one factoid you need to take away. Had another one too. It just left my mind. It had to do with, so we said conflicting out. The other one was, okay, this is it. When you even start to question, is it time for me to talk to a lawyer? Like, how do you know when you need to call a lawyer to just schedule a consultation? If you're asking yourself that question, it's time. Maybe you save your marriage or whatever's going on. Maybe you work things out amongst yourselves. Whatever's going on, I get it. But if you have it, if your intuition and your mindset is telling you, hey, I wonder if I need to talk to a lawyer. It's like a little fuzzy thought in the back. As soon as that starts happening, it is time to talk to a lawyer. So, because what that consultation is going to do is just give you knowledge. That's how I treat them. I treat them as coaching sessions. I say, look, we're not here to make decisions today unless you want to. I am here to educate you. That's going to help you make proper decisions as we move forward. So that's my biggest piece of advice is if you're starting to wonder, do you need to talk to someone? The answer is yes. And you don't, depending on the circumstances, you don't have to act quickly if there's nothing pending legally right now, but do it so that you can get your ducks in a row. And then what I would recommend is that prior to your consultation, to save costs and make sure you're going through an efficient meeting with your lawyer for the first time so that you can actually get to know them and focus and feel like you have your thoughts in order, you need to prepare a bullet point timeline of what's gone on in your situation so that you can walk the attorney through it. Provide it to them before the consultation. I love when they do that. I do read the stuff. I will be honest, I read it for about 5 to 10 minutes before I go in and meet with you. You'd be surprised. We absorb it fast. We are speed readers. That's what we do. And we will look at what you have sent us. And it does make for a much more efficient morning together or whatever time together. So put your thoughts down on paper. Get that emotion out for the first time. A lot of times, you guys haven't thought through what you need to tell the lawyer until you're actually sitting there with us and getting it out for the first time. And that's emotional and scary. So if you get it out one time on paper before you meet with us, it will help that meeting go more efficiently. Honestly, I can see that shaving off 1/2 the time of a consultation. And when you have a lawyer that's $4.35 an hour, or how much are you an hour?
$4.50.
$4.50 an hour. That's what you're going to be paying for some of the best in the game, honestly. Lower end, you're going to pay less, and that's okay too. But you want to save money at your consultations. So,
and just to add to that, I think something is important to remember, in addition to maybe creating a timeline, is include a list of questions that you have. Gather those thoughts and organize them ahead of time. And if you are interviewing multiple lawyers, having that list of questions will be very helpful, because then your takeaways, you can really compare the different lawyers' approaches based on how they answer the questions that you have prepared that are most important to you.
100%. And along with the questions and sort of a history of what's gone on in your situation, also having a summary of what you know about your financials is very helpful. And a lot of people don't know what's going on with the financials, and don't panic. That's okay too. But it is helpful for you to just rack your memory on, okay, what do I think my soon-to-be ex or whatever, what do they make? What do I think they make? what am I capable of earning and my history of my financial ability to earn, all of those things, as well as here's what I know about where our money is held. Here's where I think our bank accounts are. Here's where I think our retirement is. Anything you think you know on the financials, yes, go ahead and knock that out. So what about actually putting money aside for the consultation and calling the lawyer? What are the risks there? What do we want to think about there?
So definitely make a plan to pay for your consultation. If your soon-to-be ex-spouse does not know that you're consulting with an attorney or attorneys, then there are certain steps that you can take to kind of protect yourself and your privacy surrounding that, particularly if you're not ready for them to know. So sometimes folks will have a family member pay for their consultation so that it doesn't show up on one of their credit cards, or they'll pay cash. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that you can deal with that. One thing that I do when I have consultations scheduled is if it's a telephone consult, I will call them on an app that I use so that if the number shows up on your phone bill, it won't be traced back to a law firm. And on the flip side of that, don't call law firms from your phone bill or from your phone in which your spouse can look at the bill and see the numbers and do a reverse lookup. Just be a little bit more strategic about it if you're not ready for them to know. That's one thing that I tell people. Yes. What about you?
I mean, the same. Okay. I mean, you just want to be careful because I do see a lot that the spouse will see, hey, you talked to an attorney. I know it's coming. And if you have thoughts of wanting to try to save your marriage, of course, think about that. And you're just doing it to get information. So things can become a lot more real when your ex knows that you're speaking with a lawyer. And a lot of times people want to know, well, does it hurt my case? Like in a divorce, for example, if they see that I've called a lawyer, if I'm the one that called a lawyer first, does that hurt my case? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. What hiding that information, hiding it on the call log is going to do is just creates less drama in your life. And usually when we have less drama, you have less legal fees. We need to take the fire out. Trust me, we will bring enough fire in the courtroom when it's the right time. But really our job from the get-go is to keep the drama minimal to save you costs and also to try to help you continue and start and continue to heal. So another thing that we want to recommend that you can do before you start a divorce is it's related to your financials and potentially starting a bank account on your own. Andee, talk to us about that.
So I always like for clients to have their own bank account to which their spouse is not attached. I'm not saying go move large amounts of money into it. In fact, I'm saying don't do that. But you never know. Things can turn quickly in a divorce case. We might need to put together a temporary financial arrangement, and it's good that for you to already have that in place. I call that the infrastructure of a divorce, to have that in place so that, if you have to change your direct deposit into another account, you can do it quickly and you're ready for those things. To the extent that you can plan for things to reduce anxiety and stress while you're in it, that's what we support.
Yeah, what I always recommend is that do not start moving money around until you meet with a lawyer, because depending on the facts in your case, that could really hurt you. It could be okay to move money around, or it could really, really hurt you. So that one is a big risk. Creating an account to have is good. Keep quiet about it, but meet with a lawyer before you start shifting huge amounts of money around, before you start putting your paycheck in there.
Right.
Don't do that. That's going to start creating the drama we're talking about that you want to avoid until you run it by an attorney, because there are responsible ways to do it. So eventually you're going to need your own bank account. The goal in a divorce, is to completely dissolve the relationship between you two, obviously. And part of that means we have to cut all ties between you, except for co-parenting in the future. So financially, you're not going to share joint accounts anymore. We're going to have to separate it all out. And I've seen agreements where people try to keep things joint in different ways, and it is disastrous. You are setting yourself up to go back to litigation one day down the road after the divorce is final. We need to cut all ties with all financial accounts and be separate entities moving forward. So kind of on that same note, we talked about, okay, I've got to talk to a lawyer. I've got to have a plan on how to do the consultation and game plan with them. start a new bank account. Number 2, just to have, but don't move money around until the lawyer talks to you about it. Number 3, I would say before you go into a divorce, you need to put together a plan on how you're going to pay your attorney. A lot of my clients come in and they say they want X, Y, and Z, and they want the whole world. And Mali, you need to give that to me and give me the best of you, and I want it, and I need you to fight for me. And when we sit down that day at the consultation, I'm like, all right, here's ballparks. A lot of times my clients want to forget the ballparks I've given and just focus on the results I'm talking about. I see that a lot. And I'll remind them, look, we take this approach, you're going to be talking a lot more money. And you have to be prepared to understand at that consultation, what access do you have to what resources? Come to the table with your attorney at the very beginning and say, here's what I have access to. Here's what I'm going to be able to pay. This is an investment. So you don't just go, if you were a business person, you don't go sit down at the negotiation table on day one and say, well, I don't really know what I'm working with money-wise, but I want these results. That's not how you make a deal. And that's not how you make a responsible deal, because what you're doing there, if you don't have a financial plan before you get started, is you're setting yourself up for the unknown. And that's just creating stress and more drama for you. That's not healthy on your nervous system, on your spirit, or in your pocket. So, yeah, Andee, I took that one. Tell me, what do you have to add to it?
We tend to share a brain, in case y'all haven't figured that out.
Yeah, we do.
But yes, I agree with everything that Mali said, obviously. And, you know, sometimes folks come in and they're upset, rightfully so. And their plan is, well, they just have to pay for it. They want the divorce, so they're going to have to pay for it. And your plan can't be that. It's not that we can't ask for attorney's fees at some point in the process of litigation. It's governed by certain laws as to whether or not it's a good attorney's fees case. But the reality is, from the beginning until that point, you're responsible for your attorney's fees, regardless of the intent to hold the other person responsible for all or a part of them later in the case. So sometimes people will talk to family members who will help them. Sometimes people will go get a credit card that their spouse doesn't know about, just so that they have power and control over their own situation in moving through this. Because when emotions get high, everything becomes a source of battle, including access to resources. So I just encourage people to empower themselves and give themselves options to make it through the process.
Yes. And your lawyer at the consultation should be able to tell you how much they expect the case to cost, but they should warn you that there's no crystal ball. We're never going to know. If you settle a case quickly, you can be done in under $2,500, and that's beautiful. But that is so rare, especially for the kind of cases we handle.
Right.
And, you know, you can go up 10, 20, 40, 80, 200,000. You can go up infinitely, and we've seen it. And you can get results with all that, but you just have to know what your resources are and how you're going to be able to use them, because the last thing you want is to come in and ask for all these things and say to the lawyer, I'm going to figure it out, without even knowing how are you going to figure it out. Because what happens is, if you can't afford your lawyer during the pendency of your case, they're probably going to withdraw during the middle of your case. And then you're left without a lawyer, and you got to figure it out after that. So it's just something to really think about. You're going to make your life easier if you put a financial plan together at the very beginning about, how am I going to pay for this? Okay. So let's see. What about making a plan for your future employment and like future plan on where you're going to live? How do we go about doing that?
That's one of in all consultations, I always ask people, if you're drawing a picture of what this is going to look like afterwards, forget about worrying about what is the law that applies, anything, just tell me what you would want it to look like. And I'm looking for pieces of information like, where does this person intend to live? Do you intend to move to another state to be in your family? Is it really important to you to stay in the home that you're in? If so, we're going to have to start gathering information about that to figure out if that is a reasonable likelihood. Do you want nothing to do with the home? Do you just want to go live in an apartment where you don't have any responsibilities? Like, you need to start looking into those things. If you know that your house is something that neither one of you can afford alone, then let's start investigating. What kind of place do you want to live in, so we can start gathering costs, because that will help us focus on getting you the result that you want. financially in the divorce. And as far as employment, some people have taken time off while they had children, or they work part-time and they anticipate after the divorce they're going to have to work full-time. It's best to gather those pieces of information now. Are there courses that you need to take in order to increase your skill set to earn a greater salary, or in a different field? Maybe what you have done in the past is not something you can do now because you have 2 kids under the age of 5. So we need to start investigating what can you do, what kind of training you might need in order to be ready for that. How much is that training going to cost, so that we can plan for those things in your divorce and post-divorce. That's my general starting point. What about you, Mali? What do you think?
Yes, it's definitely that. It's that you have to be proactive and not reactive. As your lawyers, that's what we're trying to do in how we handle your case. Let's keep the ball rolling. Let's get to a conclusion. We're being proactive. We don't want to be reactive. That's a theme throughout our lives. That's how we run our business. That's how I want to run my personal life. So I obviously want my clients to be thinking the same way and take ownership of what is your future going to look like. Because if you can paint that picture for yourself and begin to manifest that, that's powerful. Words and thoughts, they are powerful and they are real. So don't ignore them. And speak up. Tell your lawyer what you envision for yourself and what you want, because it's going to allow me as your advocate to negotiate your case around those parameters. If I know, look, she wants to go live here, she wants this, all right. Then I'm going to think of more creative ways and loopholes and whatever to push the case in that direction. The more vision you can give me, and I'm somebody that has to visualize, and I have to think 20 steps in advance, and I have to talk about it with my people. Andee knows that. We sit down every Friday for me and her to talk through and look at charts and projections and all kinds of things. I can't function without that. And so as an advocate, I love to be able to visualize and paint this vivid, beautiful image of what we think life's going to look like in this new chapter. And so that I will say the hard advice that it's for my clients, one of the hardest things to hear is, look, if you haven't worked, but you're capable of working, you don't have a medical issue, you don't have some, usually it's that, honestly, or your old profession became obsolete and you can't do that profession anymore because it doesn't exist. I've had that happen. Things like that, where you're completely involuntarily losing income or not able to work. That's different. If you come in and you still have skills you can apply somewhere to some job, even if you have young children, a judge is going to expect you to go work full time. Usually it's going to be case specific, but the harsh reality of living in a divorced life in Georgia is both parents are going to be expected to work full time, and child support and alimony is going to be calculated with that in mind by the court. Even if you choose not to go work, they're going to establish child support and alimony based on your ability to work. And a lot of times my clients feel like it's unfair. But we try to create, solid expectations and realistic expectations for our client. So what I would recommend is figure out what you're capable of doing full time. What is the most amount of money you can make? And maybe it's something we ramp up over time and we can plan for that. The more specific you can plan that out, the better deal you're going to get in settlement, and the better outcome if you don't settle that you're going to get in court. Because the judge is a human being just like the rest of us. They're going to say, oh, wow, she or he, they've really got it together. They have this plan. We've painted this beautiful picture for the judge. Here's what we're going to do, Your Honor. But in order to get there, she or he is going to need alimony in this amount for this amount of time, child support like this. It just gives us credibility, and it's going to allow the judge to give you more in court because you look like you are ready to deliver and you want to be a productive member in society and not whatever your ex is trying to paint you to be.
Exactly.
So definitely put the time, the work, the thought into planning out what does life need to look like after this, which sort of segues us into our last sort of tidbit about what to do before the divorce is therapy. So I'll just say that the therapy component, amongst many other things, one thing that's going to accomplish is helping you manifest what your life needs to look like after this. Sometimes it's hard to even think outside the current box of trauma that you're going through. And it does help to have dedicated time with a professional outside of your lawyer who you're paying for hourly. Therapists cost less. And you want to spend your therapeutic costs on your therapist, not your lawyer. And if you start that process before the case even starts, you are saving yourself a lot of heartache and a lot of money, and you're going to start this manifestation process of what does my life need to look like, you're going to start it much earlier, which I don't see a lot of clients doing.
I agree. And, I'm a strong supporter of getting support.
Mm-hmm.
I am a strong believer in that. There's some people just have kind of a block, emotional or whatever, to getting into therapy. Some people see the process of starting it and unloading all of your concerns, fears, everything as overwhelming. But to be a whole person when you move out of this divorce, it's really important to get the support you need while you're moving through it. And that's not just your lawyer. Like Mali said, we're not therapists. We understand a lot of the psychology around a divorce, but we're not therapists. And you don't want to pay us to be your therapist because therapists are a lot less expensive. And they can provide you more focused tools to deal with the issues that you're dealing with on an everyday basis. So we're big proponents of that in this firm, and start early and often is what I say.
Early and often. And I think that there are other benefits aside from just the personal support that you'll have. I also think that potentially therapists make good witnesses when and if we have to bring them in. We try to avoid that. We don't want to envision you going to trial and dragging in all these people. But if you have to, it is helpful in really heated custody situations, or custody situations where there's even the slightest thing could tip the scales from somebody having primary versus 50-50 or whatever. If you're fighting over primary and it's a really close call, we see that a lot. And it is scary. That is so scary to know that your children are on the line, and you want to have all your ducks in a row to show you are the most responsible parent and you absolutely are the one that needs primary or 50-50, whatever it is you're wanting. So if you're the one that's put work into regular therapy from day one, even before the divorce was initiated, that would be my ideal client, because what we're showing to the court and throughout negotiation is, look, I have got the client who is not scared to put the work in to have emotional growth, because that is the bottom line. Divorce contains components of emotion, and emotion is typically what's going to cause the entire divorce to unravel, be way too expensive, and potentially have you make mistakes that might cost you your children. And if you can put the work in on the emotional piece and show the court or the guardian ad litem, whoever, that, look, I take ownership. This has been a hard time in our lives, and I have put work in to grow emotionally and mentally, take my children into the next chapter of our lives together in a responsible way, and I'm a whole individual. I've accumulated the tools through therapy to be able to share with my children in a responsible way how to cope, those sorts of things. You're really setting yourself up for a much better result.
Absolutely agree.
All right. So that concludes our advice on stuff to do prior to a divorce. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Please find us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Hastings Shadmehry. We'd love to hear from you on there. Message us, ask us about stuff you want us to talk about. So we're not up here just telling you that we're in here barefooted after court.
Although I think people want to know.
I knew y'all were dying to know that. And with that, we'll see you next time. Thank you.
See you next time.